Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Obi, and I am the Southern Front Range Program Officer for Great Outdoors Colorado. I live in Colorado Springs. I have grown up in El Paso County in Monument. I'm originally from Norway, but kind of did school year stuff in Colorado and summers in Norway. Love the outdoors. The last 10 years, I was the executive director of the Catamount Institute in Colorado Springs. So very passionate about getting youth outdoors and youth connected to nature, but was really honored to be able to join the GoCO team in January as the Southern Front Range Program Officer. For those of you who don't know, GoCO our mission is to help Coloradans preserve, protect, and enhance and manage the state's wildlife, parks, rivers, trails, and open space heritage that we have in Colorado. GoCO is written into the Colorado Constitution to invest a portion of lottery proceeds, and we do that through our annual granting programs. Recently, our board took on every 5 years, they do a 5-year strategic plan. So that was 2019, 2020, with it being unveiled in 2021. And we're now in our first year of this 5-year plan. So that was a statewide tour, a lot of surveys, and also really leaning into the staff experience and tenure that we have to come up with the new grant programs that I'll be presenting to you today. Through this, we also heard that communities were wanting a bigger relationship with GoCO and easier access to Great Outdoors Colorado. Our main offices are located in Denver, but you can see here, this is our regional approach. So we do have one program officer who lives and works out of the Denver office for the Northern Front Range, but then all the rest of us are outside of that office and live in the regions where we work. So you can see my region, the Southern Front Range. We have our Eastern Plains, Southwest, North Central, and West. So I have peers all across the state, and I am your main conduit to Great Outdoors Colorado and to the grant programs. I'm available to everyone. We want to have open discussions about the projects that you're doing, the opportunities, and that's why Becky reached out and why I am here today. Through our strategic plan, the board also identified values for our program. So these are the values that we're looking for in projects that come to us. So we're looking for projects that entail all 5 of these, or maybe one of them really heavily. They don't have to touch on all of them, but as many of them as possible is always better. So resource conservation, outdoor stewardship, community vitality, equitable access, and youth connections to the outdoors. These are all things that we're looking for in potential projects, regardless of what grant program they're coming to. These were all came to fruition through that strategic plan. The GoCO board also, I should have mentioned, is appointed by the governor. It's a nonpartisan board. There are 2 representatives from each congressional district that sit on that board. So we will be getting 2 new members of the board this next year when the new congressional district is added. So I'm going to run through the grant programs that we have available. Applications are allowed from municipalities. This has always been the case with Great Outdoors Colorado from its inception, was to fund municipalities or counties, Title 32 special districts, other subdivisions of the state. We do work with 501c3 nonprofit land conservation organizations for land conservation, and then also Colorado Parks and Wildlife is one of the organizations we fund in the largest way. There are exceptions to this. The board on a case-by-case basis can make a determination to fund a specific project with, say, an organization that is like Catamount Institute that does environmental education. That's typically Not usually the case, but it just depends case by case basis. And we typically will ask those organizations, so a great example are schools. We can't fund schools directly, but we would ask that the town or the county that that school resides be kind of the main applicant on that application. So we have 4 base programs that have 3 opportunities to apply. So our base programs, we call them, are on a tri-annual cycle. So there are 3 opportunities to apply. And those programs are land acquisition, community impact, stewardship impact, and planning and capacity. So land acquisition is what you think it is. It's preserving private public lands through those conservation easements or purchasing property. So if there was an opportunity to purchase property for a new park, to get a trail easement on a property for new trail, it would go through the land acquisition program. Community impact is what, for anyone who is familiar with GoCO grants, would be closest to what our local government grant program was. So this is going to be anything that really impacts the community, trails, parks, anything that is more the construction related. Stewardship impact is for taking care of those amenities and trails. So working with organizations like Rocky Mountain Field Institute or other trail stewardship organizations to build new trails, to work on wildlife habitat. Those types of projects will come through the stewardship impact grant. And then planning and capacity. Planning and capacity is for larger scale planning projects. So if you were going to do a community-wide outdoor recreation kind of planning project, that would fall under our planning and capacity. If you were going to do, say, a planning project for one specific park, we would fit that planning under the community impact grant, because it's just going to kind of impact that one area in the community and more leading towards that construction, which of course planning and capacity will too, but think of the planning and capacity just a little bit larger scale when it comes to that planning. It can also include building capacity for outdoor careers, creating fellowships, internships. So many land conservation organizations have used this planning and capacity to create capacity within their organizations, to hire a fellow and then work with high school students and create scholarships and things like that. So there have been some neat projects that have been coming through this grant program. We also have our annual grant programs. Generation Wild is one that will be coming back in the next couple years. This is communities to connect with diverse youth and get more youth outdoors. We have 12 coalitions across the state. There is one here in the area. It's in Southeast Colorado Springs. It's called Generation Wild of the Pikes Peak region. We're not exactly sure how this grant program will be run, if it'll be invite only or if it'll be an open application. The Centennial program is also called our Centennial Fund. So this is a new program that is for high value, once in a generation visions projects that will create lasting impacts on the state and future generations. So this is really thinking big scale, high dollar value projects. The applications for the Centennial Fund would come through our base programs, but it would be a conversation between the program officers and those communities to know, this is, going to be a total, change. Think of communities changing from maybe an oil and gas industry to an outdoor recreation industry because they lost, the oil or something. They're switching, trying to change their whole economy of their communities. That would fall kind of under this Centennial program. We also have a fellowship program where we are trying to increase diversity in the outdoor recreation field by placing fellows in various different outdoor organizations across the state. And then we also take part in the CPW Directors Innovation Fund, which is individual state park employees and parks are able to apply for funding for special projects at their individual state parks or hatcheries and so on. We also have partner programs that we take part in. So we have Restore Colorado, which is very focused on the wildlife and habitat restoration, and that's through NIFWIF. And then we also have the Conservation Service Corps, which is granting with using youth service corps to do fire mitigation, trail building, restoration, and that is done by the Colorado Conservation Corps organization leads those grant opportunities. So I'm gonna bounce back here to base programs just to give an idea of the dollar amounts that communities are able to apply for. So in our base programs, we're really looking, with this strategic plan, things have gotten a little bit more competitive because the board decided to do larger gifts, but that means we're going to be doing less gifts. The maximum that was allowed in the past with local government grants was about $350,000 for those grants. Now the maximum for a community impact grant is $1 million. So we're really looking at projects that are between $100,000 to $1 million for the community impact grant. The planning and capacity, there really is no limit on that. It's really based on the outcomes that will come out of the planning. So it's having that right balance of these are the outcomes and here's how much it'll cost us to get to those outcomes. But there isn't a specific dollar amount around that. And then the Centennial Fund is really projects that are between $5 and $10 million is kind of what we're looking at for those Centennial level projects. So the process of applying to GoCO for a grant is starts with the concepting stage. We have due dates that will be released next week. So sign up for our newsletter on our website. You'll get the email with our grant calendar for next year. It's looking like the first Thursday of August will be the first of our 3 opportunities next year. But it starts with the concepting, and that's really where our relationship comes in, a back and forth with me. As a program officer, I want to read drafts of the concept. You start with a 2-page concept paper that you submit along with a budget that comes in, and then our programs team reviews all of the concepts and then invite municipalities and counties and cities to apply for a full application from there. Our last round, we had about 50 concept papers come in and we moved 16 applications to the full application status. If you turn in a concept and it doesn't go through the first round, that's okay. We love giving feedback. We're very open with that. And so that's further conversation that I will have with our grantees, with the applicants of, here's what some of the comments were from my fellow team members. So let's have you come back next cycle, or maybe let's wait 1 more year, and come back. So it's all about the timing, the urgency, are all things that we're looking at. But it doesn't mean that if your concept paper doesn't move forward that round, that it's out for all the other rounds. It's a kind of more of that back and forth. And so the earlier we can start talking about projects and refining that and getting feedback, the better, because the great thing is I can, up until it's due, I can get feedback from my teammates, have someone read it and they'll say, oh, well, what about this? Instead of it being turned in and having that question asked. And that was the question that kept it going from full application. So if you're invited to full application, that increases the 2 pages to 5 pages, and it's the same questions that you answered on the concept paper, but get to expand to 5 pages. You get to add photos and maps and letters of support from community partners. And that goes into a peer review, which is again reviewed by our programs team, but then we also bring in outside reviewers from parks organizations across the state who review those applications. It then goes to our programs committee of our board, who get a recommendation from the staff, and the programs committee from the board, they get to then advance their recommendation to the full board, and then the full board will approve the funding at one of their quarterly board meetings. So if you apply in August, then it is that December board meeting when funding is awarded. So it's about 3 months from application to once the application is turned in to knowing if the award will be given. Some things to note, and this is all available on our website under each of the grant programs. This is the information that we give our reviewers for them to consider when they're looking at grants. So really thinking about the impact that it's going to have on the community and or visitors of that community. How can this project potentially drive local, regional, or statewide economic development? One of our values is community vitality, and that can mean many different things in different communities. It can be kind of building that economic development, but it also could be improving the health and wellness of the citizens of the community. So you can see that number 7, the contribution towards one or more of GoCO's program values and the degree of that contribution. You know, so we're really looking for projects that hit on as many of those or one of those really deeply. And there's many other things that we'll look at, but really what I have been sharing with the communities that I'm working with is to really find that unique story about your community and what is the highest, best need right now if you had one chance to apply for funding from GoCO. What is that one project that you think needs to happen in the next 5 years to really move the outdoor recreation, land conservation, and connections to the outdoors in your community? And that is all I have. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer some questions.
I have a question for you, Chris, and not wanting to jump in above anybody else's questions if anybody has one, but just from a strategic standpoint, a community that's coming into this process with GoCO, what would be your recommendations on first steps?
I think first steps is really identifying, identifying what your community wants and needs are is a great first step. So if you have a parks master plan, that is somewhere you can start, or if that's something that needs to be updated, then that's a conversation to be had as well. We're really seeing projects that are coming forward and being successful are the ones that are engaging their community, really looking for diverse partners, and really thinking about kind of the future need of their community and getting citizens excited about updates and upgrades that you want to do, because then of course they'll use them if they asked for them, and really making sure, doing that outreach, who is at the table, but then who also is not at the table. Who could we invite in? We're hearing a lot from, this group that loves this specific, a splash pad. There's lots of people that want a splash pad, but we're not really hearing from, the 50+ community who maybe wants a pickleball court. Where are they hanging out? Can we go talk to them? So really hearing from community members, being able to come up with that plan And that is an opportunity to apply for funding from GoCO to be able to update a plan like that. I think also, thinking about the uniqueness of your community, that you have such unique art opportunities here, that there is probably some really cool tie-in with that that could create some really neat projects. And then you're also, kind of right in the middle of some, of big access to trails and places for tourists to come. And is there a way for a project to help drive more, economic development through that, creating better access, creating more opportunities for people to stop in Green Mountain Falls and stay and hike and enjoy the businesses that you have.
Thank you.
You were saying August is the first, the first opportunity to.
Yeah, so August will be the first date that concept papers will be due, and then we'll have another date, November, and then February. Is it November? Yeah, October, I think, and then February is the third. The calendar is being finalized as we speak. It'll get released next week with the exact days, but that's about the general time that it'll come out. And so, the earlier that we start talking, I even have, community sending me drafts already, they're on it. I told them, okay, it'll be a couple weeks, I'll review it later. But the more we can talk about things, the back and forth, I think the better it'll be, because then there's more understanding. And as I talk to, other funders in the state, because there are other funders who are interested in funding parks master planning projects or just park projects in general, like the Gates Family Foundation, the Colorado Health Foundation. So there is a lot of funding, and especially with a lot of the federal funds that are coming out to do outdoor things, because of course we saw during the pandemic that the outdoors is where everybody went. And so now not only do we need to create new spaces and opportunities, but then we also need to work on that stewardship and taking care of what already exists. And don't feel either that, we have to come in first. We treat each cycle as kind of its own, and there's, set aside budget for each of those cycles. So it's not kind of a, well, if we don't get in on the first one and then all the money goes away or anything like that. We're always want to be flexible and make sure that we can fund great projects when they come forwards.
You operate on a fiscal, the state's fiscal year?
Yeah, so we'll start our new year in July. Awesome. Well, thank you all. My contact info is there. I'll leave some cards here. Becky also has my information. So I'll be excited to hear more about projects that you all are up to. And if you want to apply, definitely reach out, and happy to meet in person more, or phone calls, emails, things like that.
Chris, I had one last question.
Yes.
Just occurred to me. I remember our conversation before, and you talked about the planning and capacity grants and them not necessarily having a minimum match requirement. So in that, I just wanted to confirm that, just so that we're aware of that as we go into, planning for this year and next year's budget. But then also, is that something that in kind, such as, participation from the community and that stakeholder engagement, could be utilized as that community match?
Yes, yeah. So I did not mention that during the presentation, but one of the things that we also adjusted was requiring a certain percentage of cash match with communities. It's really now looked on as a one-on-one basis, where, we'll compare Green Mountain Falls different to Denver. Denver, we might expect quite a bit more match, or Jefferson County or something like that. And it really depends on the project. So in our scoring considerations, there's a line that says leverages other resources, financial or otherwise. And our new budget application has an area for match, but it also has an area for leverage. So there could be investments that happened, say, the year before this project was coming forward, but it enhances the project. That doesn't count as match, but it can count as leverage. And you can definitely use in-kind as matching. It's just showing, the investment and the commitment of the community. So whatever that looks like for each community, it'll be different. So it may, we've had communities where it's $1,000 fundraised by the local school, and then other communities where it's millions and millions of dollars, going to $1 million ask of GoCo.
Great. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for having me today. It was great to be able to come out and do a meeting in person.
Thanks for coming.
Great. Yeah, dream big. That's my advice.
Get to an area I would like to address. The two members here, right? There's some things to maybe
Thank you.
kind of keep in mind, things that I'm thinking of. Keep it, and I know, like Becky's also got some similar thoughts. We mentioned the master plans. I would encourage you all to maybe start thinking about work plans. I think that's maybe the direction we may want to head. I'm actually wanting to have a lot more planning activity, and as much as possible try to integrate the planning commission in with some of that planning activity. I'm wanting to see if there's ways to empower and integrate all of our committees, so we're hopefully functioning as basically a whole cohesive unit. Some of the things that I know I'm going to be having the board go through we're going to be going through a lot of work sessions. The first meeting, unfortunately, I think I've been telling board members, the first meeting, actually on May 3rd, I wanted to go in work session, but Becky's been telling me we got so much just regular town business that it wouldn't be practical to try to do it then. So the second monthly meeting, which will be on our Tuesday, we have a third meeting actually on the 14th to go over some training. But then that second meeting is probably when we'll probably try to target going over these work sessions, and these initial work sessions will be basically looking at risk and then priorities, one work session for each. And then from that, I want to start getting work, if we can get combined work sessions with maybe board and the committees, and start trying to really outline maybe how we want to try to do these work plans, and identifying, like you said, what we want in our work plans, and then try to go in and carve things up from that point and figure out how to eat the elephant. So that's just kind of a heads up on where I may be trying to take things is when I come in as mayor. Quite honestly, I really am not sure, because I really haven't seen one yet. We have the comp plan. Okay. And at least in my mind, we take what we're really wanting from that comp plan and what we may need, from areas outside the comp plan, and try to marry that together and to say, okay, our work plan, we want to do really A, B, and C. And A and B may be from comp plan, but C may be something that may be outside comp plan. So yeah, it's really trying to develop, like the gentleman here was saying, what do we really want? And really try to boil that down in 1, 3, and 5 year plans if we can. And that way we can kind of start carving things up and getting things in place, and then having the information in place such that when the grants come up, we can say, okay, this phase 1 piece, we want to try to go after grant money for this phase 1. And then phase 2 may be a separate piece, and 3 and 4 and so on and so forth. But we really need to define what we want. And it really kind of gets into more detail than the comp plan. I mean, comp plan does have some fairly specific items. But then we also need to be able to take that and say, here's the reality we're in for, say, the first year, and maybe for the 3rd year and for the 5th year. Because obviously, if we had unlimited resource, we just take the comp plan, hand it over to town staff and say, 10 years, go do. And we're not in that situation. So.
Seems like we're all talking about the same thing.
I think we are. I think that's a really good point. I think we're calling it different names. Becky and I have been using the terminology of work plans. So yeah, and Becky, if I'm misstating on anything, please feel free to jump in. But yeah, it's just trying to, to me, it makes more logical sense to have things planned out and then try to grab it, piece by piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that part of this ends up being, those work plans are things that we can utilize, tools that we can utilize to update the comp plan as well. I think that's one value in it. The other piece of it too, as far as a work plan goes, is that it helps to identify champions within your committees that is more task driven. And with a goal. The other piece of the Parks and Rec Master Plan is that it puts together a little bit more of a budget for some targeted items that we would be looking at. So when we would go into next phase of pursuing project funding, we would have a cost estimate of what we're kind of looking at and what are all the components, and then as well as some very high level renderings of what the community from those stakeholder engagement meetings would hope to accomplish through those projects. So did that lend a little bit more info, or did it make the water clear or muddier?
I'm seeing heads bob up and down. So I think it made it clear.
Hi, Dawn.
Oh,
Just now.
so, okay. Yeah, I'll let you guys get back in the session. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on what I'm thinking. Appreciate that.
We have quorum now.
And I understand Don Walker's on Zoom now.
Yes.
Okay, so we will call the meeting to order at 3:45 p.m. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. And are there any speakers not on the agenda? Rocco?
Don, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm here for the trail maintenance agreement part of the agenda. And I just want you to know that if there's any questions that come up, I'm here to answer those on behalf of the Friends Group. I think the current town budget priorities are out of sync with the town's comprehensive plan. For example, there's no money dedicated for trail maintenance, yet hiking and trails are identified as two of the top 6 most loved aspects of our community. Meanwhile, the pool is funded at over $20,000 a year for the next 3 years, and it's not listed at all. So I think it's time to take back the budget, reprioritize, and invest in what the community loves most. One piece of feedback from the Thomas Trail discussion, I think there's a map in the agenda packet. Did you produce that, Nate?
I think so.
It shows where the fire mitigation is happening. Yeah, that's an excellent map, and I appreciated seeing the detail in that. So I'll stand by. Thanks.
Thank you, Rocco. Everyone had a chance to review the meeting minutes of the last 2 PRT meetings. Are there any corrections to those? Anyone have anything? I will move to approve those then.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that moves forward. Old business. I'm sorry, I got a new business. So we've done the GoCO presentation. And there's next is a discussion to change the time of our PRT meeting. I believe this is because Dan can't attend. Ron, sorry, because Ron can't attend the 3 o'clock meeting time.
And I think it was a conflict with Catherine also.
So do we want to look at the same day and just change the time?
That should be fine. For me.
Don, do you have any insight into the availability?
My availability?
Yours and Dan's.
I think that Ron understood he would be on Zoom most of the time because he travels a lot. But I was not aware that the 3 o'clock in the afternoon was not good for him. That's what I can say about Ron. And as for myself, I'm okay with the time. I'm also available later in the afternoon too.
From town staff, what about you, Nate?
It's just another evening of meetings for me, but I mean, it's doable, I think, if it was
Did Don say
later.
that Ron could attend by Zoom? Is that what he said?
Yes, but he said he wasn't sure of his schedule or work schedule, or
Okay.
he said he was traveling a lot, but I don't.
I'm retired. I'm good. Whenever I can do evening, I can do early morning.
I don't want to kick the can on everything, but I think we should have Ron here
Okay.
to make this decision because I don't hear a compelling
Yeah.
reason to change.
I think it's important that a liaison is able to attend the meetings. I mean, if you want a different liaison,
No,
that's
and I
okay.
didn't mean that. I just meant from Ron's perspective. And
Oh,
what is
sure.
best for you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I have some flexibility, but 3 o'clock is it's not good for me. I mean, later in the afternoon or the evening, but yeah, certainly, I don't think before 4 would work for me.
Yeah, moving it to 4 would be great for me, but
I could make that work, but I agree that if you want to just table it till everybody's here, that's fine.
all right, well, we're gonna
I'm,
move to table that.
I'll move to table.
and I'll just do
This
my
item.
best to it to the next one.
Yes, I'll second. And we will move on to Thomas Trail. Don put together quite a bit of information about keeping the Thomas Trail safe. So Don, do you want to present this verbally?
Sure. I presume everybody has read it. Is there anybody that would like for me to reread it?
And I do have some adjustments to this based on some information I received from Mile High Youth Corps about their work schedule.
Go ahead, Nate, if you got some comments.
So they confirmed that their work schedule will not be Monday through Thursday. It will be Tuesday through Friday. But they did say that they would be willing to manage these fences if that's necessary. And we did set up a time for a next site visit, and during that site visit they would like to talk about, you know, the idea for the fencing and signage. They do have some signage as well that they provide just about work in progress, basically. Personally, I thought it might be a little much for them to move a giant fence, you know, as part of their work time, but they seem.
No, it's not moving the whole fence. It's just moving a gate that's on the trailhead, just opening and closing that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So that's fine. I forwarded them this information and they were agreeable to it, except for that work schedule.
Got it. Anybody else have questions about that or different suggestion or anything like that?
I thought it was good work, Don, and I'm glad that it's already been forwarded to Mile High. So I would recommend that we pass this recommendation on to the board.
I would add that we write a press release so we have the verbiage to give to the board that can be worked with the staff. And that way, when I do an advice memo, they'll have the press release ready and they'll be able to release that. And I'll also inform the trail ambassadors. Do we know what period of time this is yet?
Yes, May 24th through August. I'll have to verify the end date. I want to say August 12th, but whatever 12 weeks is from May 24th.
Okay.
Sort of a note.
So it's all summer. Basically, it'll be
Yeah.
all summer
Mhm.
that the trail ambassadors will be working. So they'll be aware of that. And yeah, I think press release would be a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. One other thing to add on the schedule, we talked about doing an additional 12 weeks next summer. That's likely not going to happen, but will hopefully happen, is getting an extra 3 weeks in the fall. So there could be a 3-week chunk of September that they're back out doing some more work. We're finalizing that change in the grant as we speak.
And when we talk about the press release, who's actually doing the press release? Is that the town manager, the town staff?
Either Becky or I will do that.
Yeah, I would.
And if you have other avenues to suggest on where we post that, because really I just do the website and Facebook, but if there are any other sites or avenues to do that, then up for suggestion.
I would ask that you at least let PRT read the draft.
I-
And just sort of a caution too, that last year's press release about Catamount Trail sort of killed
Yeah.
the hiking season and
Right.
parking
That's,
revenue and all those things. So we need to talk about
Exactly
how
what
much
it,
is
yeah.
open and
that's why I'm suggesting we write the press release.
Okay.
And then I'll attach it to the advice memo that will go into the board packet. So that the verbiage and the words will be there, and I'll work with Nate. I'll coordinate with him.
Yep. Sounds good.
thank you for clarifying. that.
Yes, you're welcome.
If I could just make a recommendation. A lot of hikers show up and they don't have internet, they don't have Wi-Fi. We have a bunch of trailhead boards in town. If I could post whatever you come up with on those so that hikers who show up can actually see.
Yeah, I think Dawn recommended that if you go lower or the signs right there.
Oh,
Well, I guess he didn't have it on the trailheads, but we're getting that welcome center sign, hopefully before hiking center season starts. So we'll put it on that, but yeah, that's a great idea. We'll put them on the trailheads too.
okay.
The only fact that I have on this is that I do want to discuss the enforcement as well as the signage with the town marshal, just to get buy-in.
I didn't hear that, Becky. What'd you say?
Oh, I just want to have a quick discussion with our town marshal. If we've got a little transition going there, I just want to make sure that he is engaged and that we have his buy-in and support.
Thank you.
And just for reference, the meeting the next site visit with the Mile High Youth Corps to look at the details of the fencing and things is Monday, April 25th at 9 a.m. So if anyone wants to join us.
What did you say the meeting was, Nate?
April 25th, 9 a.m. And we're going to meet at Town Hall again and just drive up to that same parking spot basically we were at last time.
And what's the purpose of the meeting?
To walk the site again with the Mile High Youth Corps folks and just talk about this plan and as part of that, like where the fence is going to be and signage locations and things that we are asking them to help manage.
Okay, that's 9 o'clock, I'm sorry.
9 a.m., April 25th.
Thank you.
Mhm. And Don, you heard about the schedule change, the Tuesday through Friday instead of Monday through Thursday, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we had a motion in a second already out there. Is that correct? If not, I will. I'll do it again.
Okay.
You'll second again. And Don, we assume that you're going to vote yes, and we're all three in agreement.
Yes, sir.
Right? Thank you. So next on the agenda, we have the agreement for maintenance of the trails between the Friends Group and the town. And so Rocco, you've put together quite a bit of background information on this through Background and Purpose. I've read through this multiple times and don't have any objections myself, but I'd like to hear from the other members. I'll start with Nancy.
Well, I believe it's needed because we've had, the trails in the town, on town property, haven't had any maintenance for the past 3 years. And so there are some hazards and some things that need to be taken care of. I do know that the inspections that are done are thorough and will, you know, they'll be able to show what needs to be done. It'll be, you know, they're good reports. I've seen quite a few of them. And in disclosure, I am an executive officer on the Friends Group, but it is a non-for-profit. So, and we're just making a recommendation to the board, so.
Don?
Yes, I'm also a director on the Friends Committee. I'm not a executive director, just a director. This group has all the expertise that we would ever want to maintain the trails in the town of Green Mountain Falls. I've read this over multiple times and have no objections to it. I think it's a good contract. And I would recommend that we advise the BOT to accept it.
Yeah, and before we make that recommendation, I think as it was previously mentioned, somehow the budget line item in the town budget for trail maintenance sounds like we don't have funding there. And there is some funding needed through this maintenance agreement. Rocco, what are supplemental avenues that might be available, if any?
Well, so the agreement you see before you has we voted on as a Friends Group. So what's there is what we're proposing.
Mhm.
What other supplemental funding the Friends can receive is kind of Friends business.
Mhm.
But as far as the approach to the town, you know, and I've looked at contracts for Mile High Youth Corps and other service corps. The actual request for funding is $4,500. To get a youth corps up here for 4 days for trail work is above $9,000. And so, you know, shop around. The Friends are offering the town a deal. But this used to be done for free to the town as part of the trail committee, which is funded. Unfortunately, Friends have costs such as insurance, and a lot of those costs are passed through now in this request for the town. And so that's the reality. That's the reality.
I thank you for speaking to that, because I think it's important for everyone to understand why there are costs involved. And you know, I have been, or not me, Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation has had Mile High Youth Corps coming out for the last 15 years, not every year, but quite often. And certainly their costs are increasing exponentially year over year. So I do see the value of what you have put together and your contract amount as being an extreme value to the town.
And Rocco, hasn't this been looked over by Friends Legal?
It has not, just based on the timing to get it before you.
Okay.
Today. But it certainly can be, but that's also a cost
Yeah.
of forming the group as a nonprofit. There's been legal fees to the state, business fees. The Friends Group has zero administrative overhead, so all of the budgeting and you know, there's no paid salary positions. It's just business costs of doing business as a nonprofit.
Well,
I'm sure
oh.
that the town would have, you know, their legal advisors look over it. So you know, I don't know that that's anything to slow the process down. To have it look by yours and ours.
I certainly feel like a recommendation is in order.
I move that we present this to the board and recommend that they help me out,
Accept the main agreement.
accept the agreement.
And I'll second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is just a reminder about the Cersa training on April the 19th at 7 o'clock at Sally Bush. Is mandatory that all of our committee members either attend that or do a makeup watching of the Zoom video. But it's nice that it's happening live and at Sally Bush. And I won't be able to attend that in person. Maybe I'll Zoom it, but I'll definitely get mine done.
well, there is a Zoom option on that too, right? Or a live stream or,
Yeah, need to work that out. One of the two, either YouTube or Zoom, but we were thinking more YouTube live stream, but we need to get down there and make sure we know what audio situation is going to work.
They do have good Wi-Fi there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
So
whatever works for
I
you.
was going to talk to
Yeah.
you after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's just the podium that has the speaker in it, right? Pretty much. Or does
There
it?
are other options, but that should be enough.
Right. Okay.
And it also has, you could, plug in, anything, other equipment if you need to into the podium.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We can talk after and maybe set up a time to check it out down there.
So we also have as new business ribbon cuttings for both the fitness court and the ADA fishing pier. Which we're going to talk about both of those in old business. And I don't think that it was my agenda item, basically, because I wanted to start talking about it. Do we as PRT want to take that on as our own role? Do we want to make a recommendation to the town that they let's do that? How do we proceed on both of those? Both things to celebrate. The fitness court will obviously be ready first. With that will be some press, will be some training about how it works and things like that. And there will be some ambassador requirements for that. That is scheduled to start installing on May 23rd. And it's like a 5-day install.
Nice.
So as a town, it seems like we would want to do our own ribbon cutting. I know Greenbox will do their own unveiling during Greenbox as part of the art walk. But I feel like it's a town project, and so it should have its own ribbon cutting by the town. And I've never been to a ribbon cutting there.
No,
So
not
here's
that
the
the
opportunity for
town,
two.
not that the town sponsored.
to me, that sounds more like a board type of issue versus a PRT issue. I mean, because I think that they should be the ones that are initiating that since it's a town project. That's my
I
idea.
think it's okay if the PRT nudges them.
So why don't we recommend that they do ribbon cuttings and then they can push it back to us and say plan it? If that's what they decide to do. So I move to recommend that we suggest ribbon cuttings for both the fitness court and the fishing pier.
And I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Don. Moving right along into old business, which will, for the most part, be verbal updates. I did, only today I admit, pass on the the proposed easement between the Historic Green Mountain Falls Foundation and the Town of Green Mountain Falls for the Catamount Trail. So Becky has that. And I'm not sure what she does with it from there, but I know that the original intent was to do an MOU. That would be a boilerplate for us to use with other property owners. But Historic wanted to make sure that this was given in perpetuity. So it was done as an official easement agreement. And Becky has that and can update us at the next meeting on next steps. Comments, questions?
I'm thrilled that
Yeah.
we're moving on to that next step because it'll be something that I can inform my trail ambassadors about, because I've also, through my trail ambassador email, I've been getting questions about Catamount and when it's going to be open. I'm just saying, stay tuned. Hopefully in May, we're, just trying to, but it'll be really good when it is official to be open, and thrilled to death. So yippee.
I know there are press releases just laying around ready to be published for that.
Oh, yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to get all this legal work done.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Historic is to blame on that one going so slow. Wayfinding signage update. I did speak with our vendor today. They have the welcome sign that goes in Pool Park 95% ready, so it's very close, and I think that should probably be within the next 2 weeks. The rest of that project will conclude with handwork to the other original wooden signage around town, and weather just hasn't been conducive for them to do that, but I'll start working on it as it warms up. So a lot of painting, scraping, and refreshing those signs. Any comments on that?
I'm excited about that because I'm looking forward to that welcome center sign, to where we can post things like the Thomas Trail and, the maps and the trail information, because our ambassadors are only there from 8 to 12 Saturday and Sunday mornings. Hikers come all the time. So if we can have that sign, where that welcome center sign that has become synonymous with, this is where the hikers go to get information, that's going to be great. So excited about that.
So then I'll throw on the historic hat for just one moment and say that the wayfinding signage for the Red Butte recreation area will be the same as town signage, so that everything is cohesive. And it will have the Hiker 5 and all of the town signage. So we're just adopting everything that the town is doing for signage in that area. And I'll be presenting that plan at a future PRT meeting. I believe Don probably has the newest information, or maybe it's Catherine, about the gazebo park renovation.
You mean the contract?
The contract, and if we have dates yet for when the work is going to happen, and what we can be expecting.
I don't know about the dates. We might have dates.
Becky, are you still on?
Becky would know.
Yeah, definitely. So just a quick update on that. The board did approve that contract, and I have issued the notice of award. The contractor has a period of time to get some additional required documents back to me, certificates of insurance, nothing of consequence. But once that occurs, we'll issue a notice to proceed. And from there, we will do some initial pre-project meetings, in which case we will select some target dates preemptively. Nate and I kind of identified a couple of week period that was on the calendar where there were no gazebo rentals, no green box events, no town events, etc., to be able to kind of set those aside and earmark those so that we have as little impact as possible. Once that occurs, I'll go ahead and let everybody know, as well as what they can expect from the project, right? If the lake's going to be fully drained, if it's going to be partially drained, what things are going to look like, and we'll move on from there.
Where is the stilling basins project? Has that gone out for bids yet?
No, Andre is preparing the RFP on that one. I know he was working to get just like a little bit more feedback. They were doing some potholing and some locating as a final component of that RFP. And then once that occurs, I'm hopeful that that we will have it on your agenda for the May 3rd meeting.
And I've been assuming that those projects are both going to affect the lake and drainage, but maybe not. So I just am wondering if we can know about one before we know about the other in terms of the dates. You know, if we kind of need to know what's going on with the stilling basins project.
Certainly there'll be an interface there. And that's something that I've discussed both with the contractor for the gazebo lake project, as well as Andre, the engineer, with who's helping us with the stilling basins RFP, and looking at what that interface is going to look like. Certainly they can occur independently, but ideally they would occur concurrently, just to minimize impact to the space during the height of the season.
So we might have all that information might kind of come together at the same time, like by the next board meeting, maybe?
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Any more discussion on that? If not, I'm going to ask, well, we still have Becky's attention to give an update on the pool park restrooms.
Yes, certainly. So pool park restrooms, the board did earmark some money for the restrooms. The board doesn't know this yet, so surprise. But looking into the cost of what was earmarked for the restrooms, that was budgeted for just the purchase of the restrooms and not the installation. So this is going to be some conversation. I'm just finding this information out very recently. We're going to have some conversations with the board, but it's really my feeling that if there's a way that we can find an alternative to get through this year, and then hopefully pursue some GoCO funding and do the project really, really right, that would be my preference.
I was going to recommend that we have our, the porta potties put back on Maple, Street where the Welcome Center is. I think we had those put up in May of last year, and they were taken down September-ish or something like that, but it helped with the hiker season. So that would be my recommendation, is to look into that.
What about opening up the pool park restrooms on a temporary or a limited basis?
I think they were saying that the pool park or the pool restrooms are only for pool patrons. And it's not open all the time like porta potties would be, because I think there's a schedule for the pool that's like, it's a different time for each day that they're open. And, if you got early hikers, they're not going to have anywhere to go. So, but I think at the last board meeting or somewhere I heard that the pool is only for pool patrons. the bathrooms.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, I'm just exploring other opportunities. I did look at that building, and with relative ease, the restrooms could be separated from the rest of the facility. And we could put, time locks on the exit, the restroom access.
I think that there were some additional concerns about safety and keeping the patrons of the pool safe, managing that a little bit. And then the additional concern was capacity of the septic system at the pool.
What was the safety issue?
Just that there would be people that were not patrons of the pool that we didn't have a record of. I think it was more of a security and a safety for any young users was the concern.
Yeah, there aren't any lockers there. I know I've had things go missing, clothing when I've been swimming, but but that's not something that couldn't be addressed. I mean, lockers might be a good idea.
Well, I just see an asset there that could be utilized with very little money involved. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's been brought up many times, and I don't know what the limitations of the septic system, but I know that that's been like the number one issue that's come up whenever we've discussed this.
Well, if we're looking for places to save money, having to rent porta potties is one place to save. And with respect to the capacity, the only real way to find out is to use it, because other than that, I suppose one could, get a septic contractor to come out and give his estimate of what it would use, how much usage it would accept, but that's all.
Well, I think this all sounds like it's actually in the board's hands. There has to be restroom when the trail ambassadors arrive, and the memo of understanding to have the fitness court open is that there's restrooms available. So there's pressure on the board there, and I think Don, that's looking at utilizing something that's being underutilized makes sense, but we've made that recommendation, and we see what the board does here. I don't think I'm not aware of anything that's moved forward with bear-proof trash cans. I think it's still a homework assignment.
What was the question on the bear-proof trash cans?
So we were going to take an inventory of the ones that the town already owns, their locations, and then make recommendations about where they're best utilized. And there is some money earmarked for some new ones to be added at some trailhead locations.
To the best of my knowledge, it's there's 3 of them. There's 2 at the gazebo park and 1 at the pool park. Rocco may have more information than myself on that.
There are 3.
No other ones?
But I don't think we have enough information here to make any kind of recommendation.
Jesse, also, did you say that you had some cost estimates or some vendors that were used for the purchase of the original ones?
I have cost estimates of the vendors that we used to buy the ones for Red Butte, but I think they were. I think you told me they were about twice the price of the ones that you had spec'd for the grant.
Yeah, and I haven't found anything that was evidence on what was spec for the grant. I think that was just an estimate on, but I can't find out where that information came from. I just know that it was a little less than I anticipate that it'll actually cost.
Do you have that number in your head, Becky, of what the amount we have to spend?
I can double check here. Give me just a second. Let me see if I still have that pulled up. Oh man, I'm good. So they were looking at $1,400 a piece times 8, equaling $8,400 for the bear-proof trash cans. And they looked at 6 at hiker parking, 1 at the tennis court park, and then 1 somewhere else that is unspecified. And when I was looking at them, I think that you can typically get a municipal trash can container that's not bear-proof for around $1,500, $1,100 to $1,500, but the bear-proof ones tend to run quite a bit more than that. I think I was looking at like $2,200 a piece for the ones that the cheapest I could find.
And that's about I think that's what we're paying for the ones at Red Butte.
And so I think therefore, the best case scenario is to be able to get them. We do have an opportunity to apply for some funding through CPW. We'll be meeting with them on Monday. And maybe that's an opportunity to match that with them, but I'll know more about what that timeline and that funding process looks like after that meeting.
All right. Well, I would like to just continue this then to the next meeting when we have some more information and we're ready to make some kind of recommendation. We are scratching things off the list slowly though. So I've already talked about the fitness court installation, which starts on May 23rd. The only town requirement for that would be to have that Wi-Fi hooked up at the pool. Prior to that,
Wi-Fi and phone should be up pretty quick. Your opening day again is, sorry.
we start install on 5/23 and likely testing that equipment on 5/26. So I would say if we could have it operational with passwords in hand by 5/23, that'd be great.
Perfect. I'll work to get that. We do have estimates and that process is underway. It's just a matter of the finer details. So I'll give you an update on that too.
Thank you.
Does the town need to put out any information on that as far as, I don't know, letting people know? I mean, the fitness course seems like so long ago and everyone's gotten used to the slab, by the tennis court with great anticipation of what that slab is for, because a lot of people don't know because they don't pay attention. But do we need to put things up like at the post office, or do you feel like, I don't know. I'm just curious as to well, no, just saying,
Just creating awareness about
yes, an
the
awareness,
installation.
just a communication of this is, we're finally, we're getting it installed. This is, I don't know.
So I just got a press kit from them.
Oh, okay.
And maybe we draft a press release that talks about when the installation starts, when the soft opening is, which is at the end of the installation, because it's there and open at that time. And we could put that out as soon as the Board of Trustees agrees to do a ribbon cutting, and it could all be one big press release with install to ribbon cutting all in one packet.
Okay.
I think would be great.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too if there isn't something that can be done at the site itself. just that, coming soon to this site.
Well, the town has the sign makers, right?
We do.
Just a big coming soon and everyone will be surprised.
Yeah, and the installers will put up like the orange plastic fencing around the site. So there's an opportunity to put up a what's happening here.
Yeah.
Sign.
I think the sign shop is sort of limited in terms of artistic, like ability, not the people, but the actual, it's like street signs and, I don't know how fancy that could get or if that would be what you were looking for, but
I think you could probably just print something out on paper and laminate it and stick it to that orange fence.
yeah, it's probably better.
I'll just take it on as a personal assignment. That's okay. How's that?
We'll let you
Because
know.
I have the information from the press kit
Okay.
and I can throw together a sign and Penman Construction is putting up that fence and they're putting up that sign that they're gonna make.
All right.
Great.
Sounds like
Nice.
a good plan.
They donated the court
Yes.
and so they are happy to contribute there.
Perfect.
There are comments on that? Any correspondence? And Nancy, I know you have the Trails Ambassadors report.
I do, and I'm not going to read it all to you, but I have a few recommendations at the end. We're gearing up. We're getting things put out there. Nate has put it on the town website. Putting it, signs up and everything. So, but I do have a few things, and I think we talked about the first one already about the pool bathrooms not going to be available. So I don't know if the PRT needs to do a recommendation to the board to have the porta potties put out there, if we need to have a motion to do that, or is it if the town's just going to take that on?
I think it's something that we can certainly discuss at the next board meeting. I don't know that it needs to be a recommendation from you all. It states in our agreement that our MOU that will provide some restrooms. So it's just a little bit of a change in course is all.
Okay.
But if you want to make it official, you certainly can.
Are restrooms at the fitness court and the trail ambassadors location one and the same issue? Okay.
And then also at the Catamount Trailhead, multiple, Todd and I were hiking just, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we're walking up to the Catamount Trailhead and it's a younger couple and they're in front of us and they left us in the dust and we get up to the Catamount Trailhead and they're walking back up because they pass it. They always pass that trailhead because the big tree and the green sign, people are not seeing that as a trailhead. They see the road and they want to follow the road. So I would love to talk about, sometime possibly having a trailhead like sign that's like at Mount Dewey or, the Welcome Center sign, something bigger that people can really see, that catches their attention that you go up, not follow the road either way. So that's just a recommendation. And also, since we know that all of our known trail encumbrances have been taken care of, would love for the PRT to work on some actual trail maps that show how the trails are connected on both historical Green Mountain Falls land and also town land, so that a visual for, all trails is not a good source for, our trail ambassadors. You'll see the hikers with their head down on their phones and they're trying to see where they're going, and they never get accurate information with those all trails. A paper map or just something where they can take a picture of a map is so much more valuable than anything they get online. So it would be really great if we could work on an official trail map. And then also, once we get that done, I'd love to distribute them to the businesses, the verbos, the lodging, just so that visitors who come in and stay, they have a really good resource that they can take a picture of if they're going to go hiking and the trail ambassadors aren't available.
We'd love to have it on the new Chamber of Commerce website.
Yeah. So yeah, so those are just a couple of my wish lists, the last two, and maybe we can look at working on those.
I can make a map. What happened to the ones that like Dick used to always hand out? Or those not, are they gone and the digital cop? But they're sufficient, right? They were. But it's not too, I mean, I have all the GIS data in our files, so it wouldn't be too hard to make a map. The tricky part gets to where you're creating a trifold design and all that stuff, but it'd be pretty easy to make one that's a big one that people can take a picture of at the Welcome Center or wherever. That layout is pretty easy to do. The trifold stuff is a little bit more involved, but it certainly wouldn't be too hard for me to make an overview map of everything from Catamount, Bratton, all the way down to the Wallace Reserve. And so I can put that on my list to do, or at least start drafting one for your review, perhaps by the next meeting.
So I just had Pocket Pals do one for Red Butte, which we just handed them our GIS information and had them produce it. So they have files for HB Wallace, Mount Dewey, now Red Butte. It might be nice to go to them so that we have a
Consistent,
group. So I'm happy to get a quote from them.
That'd be fine too. Yeah, I wouldn't hurt my feelings to not.
I know it's an expense, but
it'd be good to have consistency and professional layout for sure.
I'll get a quote and we can bring that back.
Thank you. I'll put it on the agenda.
And as it relates to your other trailhead marker, we are doing something at Red Butte, which is the wayfinding towers that we have in town, but a much smaller version that have informational markers with QC codes.
Yes,
QR
codes.
QR codes, which connect to Waze. And you don't need internet.
Oh.
Because it goes over GIS. So it's something we're exploring, and if it will work there, then it will work here. And I think it would be easy to transition that into really getting everything cohesive.
That'd be great. Yeah, perfect. I just know it's an issue because they walk right, and last summer we had so many different hikers who would come back and we're like, wait, didn't you go up to the reservoirs? Well, they led me back here and we're like.
But you were hiking on a closed trail. I thought trail was closed right now.
No, that was last summer.
Oh.
No, we just went to the falls. Nudge, nudge.
Anything else before we adjourn?
I just implicated.
You did. And the mayor.
Just call it scouting.
No, that's it.
All right, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting, and thanks to everyone for sitting through another wonky meeting, but we do get things done. It's nice sharing the information.